Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to take a final look at the Week 3 NFL slate on Draftkings and Yahoo. Going to break down this slate position by position. These will be my full thoughts, my final thoughts, what I'm seeing as of Friday when I'm recording this video. I did upload my first look video at the beginning of the week, but this is my full thoughts. We've got some injury news throughout the week, so I'll be sure to break everything down at each position. Really just hit on the guys that I like most at each position, the guys I've really keyed in on, and the players I feel like I'm going to be playing in my lineups. I'm not going to talk about every single player because if I do that, the video will probably be like 2 hours long. So going to try and keep it around 30 to 40 minutes, maybe even a little bit less than that. Just really, talk about the players I like most at each position. So before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. And if you are new here, be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. We are getting very close to 20,000 subscribers, so if you are new, would appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. Be sure to click the notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload and you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. I am uploading about 4 to 5 NFL videos a week. I'm also going to be making NBA videos again. Once the finals get here in about a week, I will be making NBA videos for the finals showdown slates because I know Draftkings is going to be running some huge tournaments for that. So I got a lot of content coming out right now. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell so that way you never miss out on any new content. And lastly, if you would like to get more content from me, I do have stuff available on Patreon that you can check out, link down below. If you really enjoy these YouTube videos and if they do help you out a lot, if you want to get more content from me, you can see what I have to offer over on Patreon, link down below in the description. But I think we covered the basics, guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at this slate. We will start off at quarterback, where I really like the top options here. Quarterback for me this week, I think, is a position I do want to try and pay up at. I don't see much value that I really like, below 6K on DraftKings. Really liked pretty much the top 3 guys, not counting Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen for sure in play, but I really like Russ, Dak, and Kyler Murray. Those are the 3 guys that I've really keyed in on at the top, and I think Cam Newton also looks pretty good for tournaments. But if we're just talking about like optimal build in my main lineup, I think in my main lineup, I'm either going to be playing one of Russ, Dak, or Murray. I just haven't really figured out who I'm going to yet. I think right now I do lean Kyler, so we'll talk about him in a second. But first, you have Russ, you have Dak at the top. I mean, both look like great plays this week. If we look at the total in this Dallas-Seattle game, right now this game does have the highest total on the slate. It opened at 55.5, and since then it's been bet up to 56.5. So Vegas is expecting a lot of points here. It's not surprising with how much Seattle, their defense, they've allowed like a lot of passing yards. I know they allowed Matt Ryan to throw for over 400 yards in week 1, or in week 1 I believe it was, and then forgot who they played last week. Oh yeah, and Sunday night against the Patriots, we saw Cam Newton have a huge game against Seattle. Like their defense has actually kind of been pretty bad against the pass. They have allowed a lot of passing yards. It is a really good spot for Dak. It is a good spot for Russ as well. I mean, Russ has just looked like the MVP so far this season. He's been awesome for DFS, 34 DraftKings points in both games. They're letting him throw the ball a little bit more than we saw last year. One of the reasons, I didn't really pay up for Russ much last year was because of just how much Seattle ran the ball. But so far this season, they're letting Russ throw the ball, 30, 35 times. This is a game you expect to shoot out, so you would think, Seattle's probably going to be throwing the ball. It's not like they're going to get up to a big lead and just be able to run the ball in the second half, kill the clock. I just don't think that's going to happen here. We should expect a close game. The spread right now is at 5 points, so even as 5-point home favorites, I still like Russ a lot here. I mean, he's going to be a guy we're probably going to be playing, pretty much every week. He gives us, rushing upside. He doesn't have as much rushing upside as someone like Kyler, so I think that's why I do prefer Kyler over Russ this week. But Russ is a very strong play. Between him and Dak, I think I do lean Russ over Dak. But you can't go wrong with Dak either. Another guy that gives you a big floor, does have rushing upside. Definitely ran good last week to get 3 rushing touchdowns. He got 3 touchdowns at the goal line, 2 quarterback sneaks, and then 1 of them came on a read option. Obviously, that's not going to happen every week. A lot of times, those goal line touchdowns are going to go to Ezekiel Elliott. So 43 DraftKings points, I don't think we should expect that again from Dak Prescott. But in a game like this where you expect a shootout, great game environment, I mean, Dak is a strong option once again. I just think I do prefer Russ over him, between the two. I think Dak's a great play, but I probably would lean Russ over him if I just had to choose one of the two. But right now, I think Kyler Murray's the guy I'm probably going to be keying in on. At the beginning of the week, I thought Russ was the best play at the top. But I think right now I'm leaning Kyler Murray. I just love the rushing upside, the floor that he gives us with his rushing upside. 91 rushing yards week 1, 67 in week 2. Like, he is an elite scrambler, has a ton of speed. I mean, he's pretty much the best rushing quarterback, not named Lamar Jackson. Going to throw the ball a ton as well. I mean, 40 passing attempts week 1, 38 week 2. Like, this is a fantastic spot for Kyler Murray against the Lions, a team we should not be scared of at all. This is another game with a very high total, opened at 53, and since then has been bet up to 55. We should expect a ton of points scored here. If the Lions can keep up with the Cardinals, if they can keep this game close, I mean, Kyler Murray just has a massive ceiling this week. His floor is through the roof as well. I mean, he legit has a 20-point floor right now. Like, even if he has a bad game, he's probably still going to give you about 20 DraftKings points. I just feel so good about Kyler Murray. He's going to be someone I'm playing a lot in DFS this year. I played him a good amount last week. He was like one of the top, projected quarterbacks in terms of projection and ownership last week. I think that's going to be the case once again. Quarterback ownership usually is spread out to begin with. Like, rarely do you see quarterbacks be, 40% owned. Like, that's just not going to be the case. Kyler may be up there in terms of quarterback ownership, but that doesn't bother me too much. I like him a ton here. Probably going to be playing him in my main lineup. It's close between him and Russ. I think right now I do lean Kyler. So really like Kyler on DraftKings at 6,800. He is the most expensive quarterback on Yahoo, but I think with him being the most expensive quarterback, that might actually keep his ownership down. So I do like him a lot over on Yahoo as well. Yahoo, their pricing is already so soft. So it's very easy to pay up for Kyler, if that's a route that you want to go. But really like Dak, really like Russ, really like Kyler. I think those are the three guys I've really keyed in on at the top. Cam Newton, I do have interest in tournaments, in my tournament lineups, just because he's another guy that gives us massive upside with his rushing ability. 15 rushing attempts week 1, 11 in week 2. Like, when they get down to the goal line, they are running design plays to give Cam Newton the ball. They're not handing the ball off to Sony Michel. They're not handing the ball off to Rex Burkhead. When they get in the goal line, they're punching it in with Cam Newton, which is huge for his, fantasy upside. 2 rushing touchdowns week 1, 2 rushing touchdowns week 2. Pretty sure all 4 of those touchdowns came at the goal line or like within the 5. So he just gives us such a high floor, high ceiling with that rushing upside. Literally has looked like one of the best quarterbacks so far in the league. I mean, Cam Newton, I didn't expect him to be this good. I thought he was going to struggle a bit at first, but he's been awesome out of the gate. I would expect that to continue this week against the Raiders. Not a team I'm too worried about on the defensive end. So definitely like Cam for tournaments. Probably not going to be someone I play in my main lineup, but tournaments, definitely like him as a tournament play. We'll get exposure to him in my GPP builds. But not much else like in the 6K range. I think like Matthew Stafford's fine on the other side of that Cardinals game. A high total. You expect this game to be high scoring. The Lions, I'm pretty sure Kenny Golladay is expected to return this week. Let me just double check that. Pretty sure he was limited in practice Thursday, so he's going to be back. Getting him back is a boost for Matthew Stafford. This Cardinals defense, I'm not too worried about. I definitely like Stafford at 6,300 as a tournament play, as a lower owned option. If we're talking about value this week, under 6K, there's one guy that I do like for value. I played him last week, didn't do well, had a big game in the first half, had like 14 or 15 fantasy points in the first half, but then really did nothing in the second half. That's Mitch Trubisky. Burned me last week, but I do like him once again here against the Falcons. I mean, Trubisky was really, really low owned last week, and I think that's going to be the case once again. Like, people just don't want to play Mitch Trubisky. I'll be honest, he's not the best quarterback overall, but for DFS, he does give us some upside, especially against this Falcons defense. I mean, the Falcons probably going to have one of the worst defenses in the league by the end of the season. Going to have they do have a really bad secondary. Definitely a team you can attack through the air. I really like this spot for Trubisky. I think he is a sneaky, low-owned tournament play that I will for sure have exposure to. I do like stacking him up with Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson not looked great so far, so his ownership should be very low. I think he's another guy you could target at receiver. We'll talk, more about him when we get there. But as a value play, I do have some interest in Mitch Trubisky for 5,700. Baker Mayfield against Washington at the same price. I don't mind that either, but I really don't think I'm going to be going too cheap at quarterback this week. I think I want to try and spend up Russ, Dak, Kyler, Cam. These are the guys I really like. Stafford as well, you could look to. But that's kind of it for me at quarterback. Really the guys I've keyed in on. Not going to talk about every single player, just the ones, I feel like I'm going to be playing in my lineup. So let's go ahead and move on to running back now. At the top of the running back position, we obviously have no Christian McCaffrey this week. He's out. We have no Saquon Barkley, who's also out. So Zeke is our most expensive running back, $8,300 on DraftKings. Also the most expensive running back on Yahoo at $37. Look, I have no problems with Zeke this week. I think he is a great play here against Seattle in a high-scoring game. Zeke is going to put up points. Seattle has been pretty good against the run so far, but Zeke's just going to be a workhorse back, going to get probably 25 touches a week, 25 touches week 1, 28 touches week 2. He will be involved in the passing game. Look, man, Zeke's going to be in play pretty much every week. I just don't think this is a week that I'm going to go out of my way to play Zeke. I really like some of the options in the 6K range and, talking Jonathan Taylor as well. That's where I feel like I'm really going to be living this week. But if I'm going to pay up, I think Zeke is my preferred option between him, Derrick Henry, or Dalvin Cook. Josh Jacobs is questionable. We'll have to keep an eye on that. He didn't practice Thursday. If he were to miss, that would definitely give us some value with, Jalen Richard, Devontae Booker. Probably still wouldn't go too heavy on those guys just because it's a brutal spot against the Patriots. If Jacobs plays, I really don't have much interest in him at his price. I think if I'm paying up, above Jonathan Taylor, talking about the 4 guys above Taylor, it's probably Zeke for me. I still don't feel like I'm going to be living up there, though. I think, Taylor down, this is where I really want to go at running back. Taylor is someone that I do like a lot once again this week. I was very high on him last week. He was pretty much the chalk play of the week. He was really, really high owned. 5,700 was the starting running back without Marlon Mack. We know that Mack's now out, for the remainder of the season. And Taylor got 28 touches in that game against the Vikings, 26 carries for 101 rushing yards, got a rushing touchdown, also got 2 catches for 9 yards. Wasn't as involved in the passing game week 2 as he was in week 1, but pretty much a big majority of that was due to, the Colts playing with a lead. They won that game by 17 points. They were pretty much up the entire game. They didn't really need to throw the ball. Obviously, this is a spot where they could get up big once again, but that's probably good for Jonathan Taylor because, when they get up big, they're just going to feed Jonathan Taylor, and that was the case last week against Minnesota. He had 20 touches in the first half, only finished with 28 touches, which was kind of surprising. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we see Taylor get close to 30 touches this week. It is clear that they want him to be a workhorse running back. He's going to be a guy that we're going to target a lot for DFS this year, especially now that, he's their go-to guy, now that Mac's out. And the spot doesn't get much better than this. Massive home favorites against a really, really bad Jets team. Really, really bad defense. Smash spot for Jonathan Taylor once again. I know the price tag came up to $7K, but I still think he is a very strong play this week. Probably going to be someone I'm considering for cash games. There's a lot of viable plays in this range for cash, but Taylor definitely going to be on my radar for sure, even with the price coming up. Austin Ekeler, though, I do like him a lot as well. I talked about him in my first look video. I don't think I'm going to be as heavy on him as I was, at the beginning of the week. I thought, he was going to be like a smash play. And while I do think he is a strong play as well, there's some other guys I like for cheaper. We'll talk about Miles Sanders that I really like. We do have some value now. You got Jared McKinnon as a value. Zach Moss was ruled out, so we got some value with Devin Singletary. There's a lot of good plays at running back this week. I'm really going to be mixing and matching some of the guys that we'll talk about, like Taylor, Ekeler, Sanders. These are the guys I'm really going to be keen on. I really like this spot for Austin Ekeler. Hard not to like it. Against the Panthers, probably the worst run defense in the league. They were dead last against the run last season. Don't expect much to change this year. They're probably going to have one of the worst defenses overall this season. And getting Justin Herbert in at quarterback, I think, is a boost for Austin Ekeler. We saw him play really well last week with Herbert at quarterback. Got 16 carries for 93 yards. Was used a lot more in the passing game. Did get 4 catches for 55 yards. Tyrod Taylor, we know he's a guy that scrambles and doesn't really look to dump it off to the running back. Well, Justin Herbert definitely going to dump it off to the running back, and we saw that be the case last week. I think Ekeler, getting Herbert in at QB is a big boost for his fantasy upside, his fantasy floor. And I think we're going to see, the guy that we thought he was going to be. I thought Ekeler was going to be just a workhorse back this season, probably get, 15, close to 20 carries a week, get good work in the passing game. That wasn't the case week 1, but week 2 did get up to 4 targets. Wouldn't be surprised if you see him get 5 to 6 targets, close to that this week. Should get a ton of carries with, the Chargers most likely playing from ahead in this game. I think Joshua Kelly, if they do get up, a couple touchdowns, I'm sure Joshua Kelly will be involved, and I think Kelly does get, a good amount of volume here. But if I'm going to target one of the Chargers running backs, I do prefer to go to Ekeler just because I think he is the number 1 guy still. He's their, go-to guy. I feel like if they do get down in the red zone in the goal line, Eckler's probably going to be the guy that punches it in. I know Kelly has been their goal line back recently, but I really still don't buy into that. I feel like Eckler going to be the guy that most of the time is going to be scoring the rushing touchdowns. So I definitely like Eckler here against a brutal Panthers defense. I think he's also a very strong play at 6,800. But Miles Sanders, the guy that really stands out this week. I know he's going to be popular. Pretty much everyone's talking about him, but it's hard not to like Miles Sanders here. Last week in his first game, on the season, first game that he had played, obviously he was out week 1 with an injury. I thought he was going to be limited a bit, in his first game back, but that was not the case at all. Got 20 carries, got 7 targets, 23 total touches. Played a ton of snaps as well. I think he played like 70% of the snaps, maybe even, more than that. It might have been close to 80%. Honestly, I can't remember. Dude, with him getting so much volume, last week, it's hard not to like him this week. The matchup was fantastic at home against a brutal Bengals team, a bad run defense. The Bengals were another team that was very bad against the run last season. The price tag's just not where it should be for Miles Sanders. He should be priced up there with guys like Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor. The fact that Sanders is only 6,400 here, it's just a misprice in my opinion. He's too cheap. He's one of the guys I'm really going to be building around this week. And although he will be popular, I'm probably going to be just eating the chalk and moving on. I think Sanders is a great play on Yahoo as well. Coming in at just $21, also way too cheap over there. Hard not to like him this week. With him getting so much volume his first game last week in week 2, you would have to assume that he gets similar volume this week, if not close to 25 touches, maybe even more than that. And the matchup is fantastic. So love Miles Sanders, one of the top plays this week. We're going to see his price rise as the season goes on. So I think we want to get on him now while he's still just 6,400. Next week, especially if he has a good game this week, which is likely, he's probably going to be $7K next week, if not more expensive than that. So love Sanders here. I think he's way too cheap on both sides. And then at value, in the 6K range, besides the guys I've talked about, there's not much else I like here. I do want to talk about some guys on Yahoo, though. So Yahoo's pricing, it's a lot different than DraftKings. If you play on Yahoo, you probably know that already. There's a couple running backs that are just way too cheap on Yahoo that, I probably won't be playing these guys on DraftKings, but I definitely like them on Yahoo. First off, James Conner, only $17 on Yahoo. That is way too cheap here at home against the Texans. This is a game that I think does have some shootout potential. We know the Steelers do play well at home. They tend to always put up points at home. Big Ben has always, had better splits at home than on the road. And last week, Conner looked great, got 18 touches. I'm not really sure what happened week 1. There was reports that he got injured week 1. There was reports that he got benched. Whatever it was, it didn't seem to matter too much week 2 because he got back to, the workhorse back we thought he would be. 18 touches last week. Probably going to get that on a week-to-week basis. I think you will see Conner, most likely get 14, 15, 16 carries a week. Probably get 4 to 5 targets as well. They will involve him in the passing game. And at $17 on Yahoo, that's just way too cheap for James Conner. Like, you look at his price on Yahoo, he's cheaper than Josh Kelly. He's cheaper than Gibson, Montgomery, Melvin Gordon. Well, you look on DraftKings and, James Conner's more expensive than Austin Eckler, or he's a little bit cheaper than Eckler, but he's more expensive than Chris Carson. He's more expensive than, Miles Sanders, obviously. He's more expensive than Joe Mixon. Like, that's just a big difference in price tag. If you were to put his DraftKings price on Yahoo, he would probably be like $25, $26 on Yahoo. Well, obviously, that's not the case this week. So I think it's $17. James Conner is an excellent value running back on Yahoo. And then another running back I do like a lot on Yahoo as well is Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt only coming in at $13. Again, not a guy that I think will be playing much on DraftKings. I just think he's a little bit too expensive on DraftKings. There's other guys I'd rather play, at that salary range. I think he's $6,100 on DK. But $13 on Yahoo, this is just a misprice in my opinion. I know Hunt, still splits carries with Nick Chubb, but week 1, he got 17 touches, got 13 carries, 4 catches. Then in week 2 against the Bengals, got 10 carries and 2 catches. So he's still going to get anywhere from like 13 to 15 touches a week. They will involve him a lot in the passing game. Even if they get ahead, which is likely here against Washington, they'll still, mix in Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb is the guy that, they'll use a lot when they're playing from ahead. Kareem Hunt's more of the pass down back, but both guys should be involved. Both guys are probably going to get at least 13, 14 touches, if not, maybe more. It's hard not to like Kareem Hunt at $13 on Yahoo. That price tag is just way, way too cheap. he's honestly, he should have been like $23. I think Yahoo might have messed up here and made him $13 by accident rather than $23. Like $23 would have been a much more reasonable price tag for Hunt. At 13, even as, a backup running back, I still think he is an incredible value at $13. Like, he's the same price as Tariq Cohen. He's the same price as Rex Burkhead. He's the same price as J.D. McKissick. Like, there's no way I'm not playing Kareem Hunt over those guys. Like, Kerryon Johnson, I was high on, but he's just not getting enough volume right now. So give me Kareem Hunt all day on Yahoo at $13. I just think that's a big misprice. Against Washington, it's not the best spot because Washington actually has a very good front seven, a very good, defensive line. So the matchup isn't great overall. They're pretty stout against the run, but Hunt's going to be involved in the running game, in the passing game, and the price tag is mainly the reason I like him. So I did want to touch on him as a value running back over on Yahoo. But to finish off running back on Draftkings, there are two value plays I want to hit on. There's some other guys you could play, like Mike Davis. He should be more involved this week with Christian McCaffrey out. Like, you could go there. Josh Kelly at $5K if you want to play him against the Panthers. He got over 20 carries last week. Should get a lot of volume once again this week, but he's not involved in the passing game much, which does hurt his floor and upside a little bit on DraftKings. Like I said, I'd rather prefer to go to Austin Eckler. But the two value running backs I want to hit on, both are 4,900. So we'll start off with Jerick McKinnon. I kept wanting to say J.D. McKissick. Jerick McKinnon, 4,900 on DraftKings. We've already gotten word that both Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman, I'm pretty sure they're doubtful as of Friday. They're unlikely to play. So it should be Jerick McKinnon and Jeff Wilson pretty much as the two, standout running backs for the 49ers. Now, the 49ers, they are a team that likes to involve, multiple guys at running back. Even with the injuries, it's not like Jerick McKinnon's just going to go out there and play 80% of the snaps and get 25 touches. Like, that's just probably not going to be the case. This is a team that involves multiple running backs. Whenever all their running backs are healthy, Mostert is the starter and gets, the most touches, but they'll still involve Tevin Coleman. They'll still involve Jerick McKinnon. I don't think Jeff Wilson will really be involved, but they usually like to have three active running backs that they will give touches to. So I expect Jerick McKinnon to get some touches. I expect Jeff Wilson to get some touches, and I think there's a guy that they did call up from the practice squad that could get some touches here as well. But I still think most likely Jerick McKinnon is going to be the starter and going to get the most volume out of the three guys. He's the guy that I do want to target if I am going to target someone from the 49ers backfield. He's shown upside when he gets touches. Obviously, got lucky, he scored a touchdown both games so far. I'm not really looking at his game log too much so far this season because obviously with Coleman healthy, with Mostert healthy, you don't expect McKinnon to be involved that much to begin with. But now with those two guys out, I think you probably see, like if I had to guess how much volume McKinnon gets, I would say he probably gets anywhere from 8 to 10 carries and then probably gets anywhere from like 3 to 5 targets. Obviously, that's not a massive, that's not like a massive floor in terms of, carries and targets. That's not like, he's not going to be a workhorse back pretty much. But at 4,900, we don't really need him to be a workhorse back. He's a guy that when he gets touches, he's shown upside with those touches. I mean, he can be explosive, can, create big plays. He's a great pass catcher. They will involve him in the passing game. The matchup is fantastic as well against the Giants. The Giants don't have a good defense at all. I thought Jerick McKinnon was going to be like massive chalk this week. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he is going to come in probably around like 10 to 20% owned, which isn't, too high. So I definitely have interest in him. There is another guy, though, that I do like a lot at the same price tag. So we did get word Friday morning that Zach Moss is going to be out for the Bills, which is big because that is going to open the door for Devin Singletary to play way more, to get way more touches. Last season when he was pretty much their like go-to guy, I know they had Frank Gore last season, but it was clear that, Devin Singletary was their, starter, the guy they wanted to give the work to. He showed a lot of upside last year. So far this year, he hasn't really been able to get things going, but mainly that's been due to, him just not getting much volume. Got 14 touches week 1, got 12 touches week 2. Zach Moss has been, getting a lot of work in the goal line area, has been getting about 8 to 10 touches a game. With him now out, I mean, you would have to expect that Singletary pretty much plays close to a workhorse running back role. Like, I think you're probably going to see him get anywhere close to 15 carries. Should be involved in the passing game as well. We know Singletary is a guy that they will use in the passing game, has always been a great pass catcher. I mean, at 4,900, like, he's probably the best value running back. People might go to Jerick McKinnon over him, but I just think I think Singletary's workload is more secure than McKinnon. I think McKinnon still gets good volume this week, but I don't think he gets as much volume as Singletary will. Like, I know the Bills have TJ Yeldon, but I don't expect Yeldon to really take much away from Singletary, whereas Jeff Wilson could legit be a guy that steals work away from McKinnon. Singletary should be the Bills' go-to running back this week. I mean, he should get probably close to 20 touches, if not more. 4,900, that's just going to be too cheap for Singletary. If we would have got word that Moss was out at the beginning of the week, before DraftKings released the salaries, like Singletary probably would have been close to $6K if we would have known that Moss was out. But now that the price has already been out, Moss is out now, 4,900. I just think Singletary is a clear value at running back this week. I wasn't on him to begin the week, but like I said, guys, that's why I make these videos. As the week goes on, we get word on injuries. Guys get ruled out, so that really changes stuff. That's why I do like to provide these updated videos along with my first look videos that I post at the beginning of the week. But I think we covered running back. I think we broke it all down. So let's move on to receiver now. So at receiver this week, if I'm paying up, DeAndre Hopkins is my favorite guy to go to. He's just been so good so far this season, getting massive volume. 16 targets week 1, 9 targets last week. Found the end zone last week, 8 catches, 68 yards and a touchdown. 14 catches, 151 yards week 1 against the 49ers. Now he gets to face the Lions, a team that you don't expect to slow down DeAndre Hopkins. The Lions don't have Darius Slay anymore. They don't have a good secondary at all. I really like DeAndre Hopkins here. I think he's clearly the best receiver to pay up for this week. It will be tough to stack him up with Kyler Murray, because if you do that on DraftKings, I mean, that really thins you out on salary. You won't be able to get much in terms of like mid-range running backs. Like, you're probably going to have to play 2 cheap running backs if you want to pair Murray and Hopkins. So it's tough to do that on DraftKings, but on Yahoo, their pricing is so soft. Like I said earlier, you can easily pair Hopkins and Murray and still get in good plays around those two guys, because you have Kareem Hunt for value. There's some good cheap defenses I like on Yahoo. There's some good cheap tight ends we'll talk about. I like stacking up Murray and Hopkins on Yahoo. I think that's probably going to be something I do in my main lineup. Just feel like both guys gives us massive upside here. The spot is so good against the Lions. High total, great game environment. Really not much else you can really like. I mean, pretty much all the boxes are checked for the Cardinals this week, and for Hopkins and Murray, all the boxes are checked. So love those two guys. More so, I like Hopkins on Yahoo just because it's a little bit easier to get him in. But even on DraftKings, if you can pay up receiver, or if you can pay up at receiver, Hopkins is my preferred guy to go to. Now, Julio, this is a pretty big injury. There is a chance that Julio actually does not play this week. He did not practice on Thursday. I think we did get some reports just before I started recording that there is a chance he actually winds up out. So obviously, if Julio winds up out, that is a big boost for Calvin Ridley. He would become a much more appealing option. Also, Russell Gage would enter the conversation as maybe a value receiver. Gage has actually been really good so far this season and has been getting pretty big volume, 21 targets through 2 weeks. Even with Julio healthy, he's been getting good volume. So obviously, if Julio were to sit, that would be a big boost for Russell Gage. So at 5,100, he would become viable. I probably don't play, Christian Blake. I'm probably not going to be going to these guys. Like, even though they're minimum salary, if I'm going to target some guys from the Atlanta side, like, if Julio winds up out, I think that's a boost for Ridley. I think that's a boost for Gage. And I think that's also a boost for Hayden Hurst. Those would really be the 3 guys that I would want to play. So that's just my thoughts there. I still think, even if Julio's out, I still think Hopkins is probably going to be the receiver that I try and pay up for if I'm going to the top. But in the mid-range, we do have some really strong plays here. This Dallas-Seattle game, I think, is where we can really find some good plays. Amari Cooper, 6,500. DK Metcalf, 6,500. Tyler Lockett, 6,400. Like, all of these guys really stand out. Between the 3, I mean, I like all 3 a ton. I think right now I do probably lean Tyler Lockett over the 3. I just like Lockett a lot here. I mean, his volume is just so secure. We know he's going to get probably 8 to 10 targets a week. I'm pretty sure he's always played really well at home, too. He's just Russell Wilson's go-to guy. I know DK Metcalf will be involved, and DK Metcalf, I expect probably gets close to 10 targets as well. But I think there is a chance that DK Metcalf comes in higher owned than Lockett. I think people just like to play Metcalf over him just because they think Metcalf has more upside. And while Metcalf does have a lot of upside, I agree. I mean, Tyler Lockett's also a guy that we've seen will go for 100 yards and multiple touchdowns any week. I know Dallas is, dealing with some injuries in their secondary as well. So that will be a boost if some of those guys wind up out. That will be a boost for, these Seahawks receivers, a boost for Lockett and a boost for Metcalf. Look, you can't go wrong with any of the 3 guys. These are definitely my 3 favorite 6K receivers, Cooper, Metcalf, and Lockett. I think right now Lockett's my favorite, though, at 6,400. I like him a lot over on Yahoo as well. He is actually much cheaper than Cooper and Metcalf. Cooper is 25, Metcalf is 24, and then Lockett's all the way down here at 22. So I definitely like Lockett over on Yahoo as well. I think he really looks good at $22. I think this game in general, I'm just going to want to have a lot of exposure to, and I like a lot of plays on both sides. All three of those receivers I think are really strong options this week in the 6K range. We talked about it earlier at quarterback. I do like Mitch Trubisky in tournaments. I think stacking him up with Allen Robinson makes a lot of sense. I don't expect Allen Robinson to be owned at all this week. I think he's going to be under 10% owned, and it is a great spot against the Falcons and against a really bad Falcons secondary. So, Robinson hasn't been great so far this season, but I expect a big bounce back game from him this week. I really like Allen Robinson for tournaments at 6,200. And then getting to the 5K range, I think there's definitely some viable plays here. If you want to go to Michael Gallup in that, that high-scoring game, he looks good. CeeDee Lamb, he's pretty much played better than Gallup. So I think, honestly, between Gallup and Lamb, I would probably rather play CeeDee Lamb. So, 5,400 for CeeDee Lamb also really looks like a good play. But I think my favorite receiver in the 5K range, I don't know what his ownership is going to look like. I think he's probably going to be low owned. And if that's the case, I really like T.Y. Hilton this week. 5,600 on DraftKings, smash spot for him at home against the Jets. We've seen it, just dating back to last season, even seasons before. T.Y. Hilton has always played much better at home in the Dome. Like, his home and road splits are pretty drastic, has always been better in the Dome. With Phillip Rivers at quarterback, that hasn't looked good so far for T.Y. Hilton. Like, Phillip Rivers hasn't been targeting Hilton a ton. We haven't seen any big games from Hilton so far this season. He's had two pretty good matchups as well against Jacksonville and against Minnesota, and just hasn't done anything. That's why I think he's going to be low owned, because his game log is just so bad. It's not like he's really that cheap either. He's 5,700 last week. He only dropped $100. It's not like he's 5K. If he was 5K, I think he'd be massive chalk this week. But at 5,600, there are other guys in that price range that will, attract some ownership. CeeDee Lamb, for example, I think will be owned. So T.Y. Hilton is a guy that I like a lot for tournaments. We also did get a narrative that maybe Hilton breaks out here. I saw a thing that he was talking to his grandma, and that his grandma told him that he hasn't looked good, that he needs to play better. Pretty much hasn't looked like the player that she knows him to be. And then I think Hilton said yeah, no, I need to play better or something like that. I don't know. You can find the tweet on Twitter. I quote tweeted it on Twitter, so if you want to check that, you can. But I guess there's a little bit of a narrative here. Regardless of the narrative, whether you look into that or not, I mean, T.Y. Hilton at home against a brutal Jets defense and a terrible Jets secondary, especially, if Jonathan Taylor, who I think is a great play this week, if he does wind up really, really highly owned, which I don't think is going to be the case, but there could be some leverage here. If a lot of people play Taylor, you could get some leverage going to the passing game from the Colts. And T.Y. Hilton for 5,600, I like a ton on DraftKings. I think he's a great tournament play, and I don't think he's going to be owned too much at all. So love him on DK, and he's pretty cheap on Yahoo as well. So if you want to play him over there, you can definitely go to him over on Yahoo as well. But in terms of, cheaper options at receiver, if A.J. Brown, I'm pretty sure A.J. Brown's out again this week. So Corey Davis for 5,200 is viable. If Julio winds up out, then Russell Gage at 5,100 is viable as well at 5,100. Under 5K, though, we don't have a ton of great options at receiver like we had last week. There was a lot of guys last week under 5K that were strong plays. That's not really the case this week. Anthony Miller against the Falcons, I think, is viable for 4,900. N'Keal Harry for 4,200 is viable as well. He's been getting pretty good volume. Did get 12 targets last week, 6 targets the week before that. If you want to go there, he's a fine punt play. I do want to mention KJ Hamler. So KJ Hamler is minimum salary on DraftKings. He's only 3K. We do already know that Cortland Sutton is out for the season with a torn ACL. I don't think KJ Hamler is going to be, one of their top 2 receivers. It seems likely that Jerry Jeudy is going to be their number 1 and that Tim Patrick's going to be the number 2. But in 3 wide receiver sets, we should see KJ Hamler a lot, playing out of the slot. I actually do like him quite a bit at this price tag. Minimum salary, it's pretty much unlikely that he kills you at this salary. Sure, if he gets 7-8 DraftKings points, that's obviously not great, but that's not going to kill you when he's 3K. Did show some, good route running ability last week. Did have, some pretty nice routes where I think he crossed up a few defenders. I mean, this is a guy that does have a lot of speed, I'm pretty sure. Look, he's minimum salary. He should get some targets. He got targeted 7 times last week. without Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, I think, is coming into this game banged up as well. So the Broncos are already pretty thin on pass catchers in general. Phillip Lindsay's going to be out, so they're missing a lot of key guys in their offense. I think KJ Hamler will be involved. He is a rookie. I mean, the Broncos right now, it doesn't look like they're going to have a chance to make the playoffs with how banged up they are. This is a tough spot for them, so I don't think they're going to be a team that really, tries to play their veterans much, especially later on in the season. We should see a lot of rookies playing for the Broncos, and KJ Hamler, I think he's going to be involved. Will it start this week? I guess we'll have to see, but I think as the season goes on, he's going to be more involved in the offense. I'm willing to take a shot on him, though, this week at only $3K. Hard for him to kill you at that salary. If he gets 6 to 7 targets, I'm totally fine with that. Sure, if he doesn't play, as many snaps as I expect, if he only gets 2 or 3 targets, I'm going to be disappointed. But even if he gets 6, 7 targets and only gets 2 catches for 20 yards, I still feel pretty good about the play because, I'm expecting about 6 to 8 targets. And for 3K, really hard for him to kill you at 3K if he does get 6 to 8 targets. Does have some, big play upside, does have a lot of speed, like I said. Tampa Bay's defense does look a lot better than they did last year, so I don't think it's as good of a spot as you would expect, but like I said, he's 3K. If you want to take a shot on him as a punt play, he's definitely my favorite, cheap option at receiver if I really do want to go cheap at the position. But yeah, I think we covered, wide receiver. Let's move on to tight end real quick, break down this position. So tight end, usually a position I try and go cheap at. I think that's going to be the case this week. I don't see a lot of guys I like at the top. Kittle, if he plays against the Giants, could be viable, but I'm trying to pay up at quarterback. I like some of the mid-range running backs. I like some receivers in the mid-range as well. I can't pay up at all positions. I'm going to have to go cheap somewhere. I think tight end is the position I will be looking to go cheap at. So under 5K or like 5K and below, we'll just start off at 5K. I think Evan Ingram looks really good at 5K. I don't think he's going to be owned at all because it is a pretty tough spot against the 49ers. However, the 49ers are missing a lot of guys on offense. We know that Nick Bosa is going to be out for the season. I'm pretty sure Richard Sherman is going to be out. I think they're missing a few linebackers as well. Like their defense is actually pretty banged up for this game. So it's not nearly as tough of a spot as you would expect. Plus, Sterling Shepard is going to be out for the Giants. I'm pretty sure he's out or he's on IR. So it should be Evan Ingram, Golden Tate, and Darius Slayton pretty much just getting all the looks from Danny Jones. I mean, Evan Ingram at 5K. This is a guy that showed a lot of upside last season. We know he's one of the best, receiving tight ends in the league. Although he hasn't posted a big game yet so far this year, the big game is coming for Evan Ingram. People might shy away from him this week because of the 49ers, but they're actually, really banged up on defense right now. Going to be missing a lot of guys. The matchup is actually pretty good for Evan Ingram, so I like him quite a bit on DraftKings at 5K. I think on Yahoo, Evan Ingram just looks like probably the best tight end on Yahoo. He's only $14. He's the same price as Eric Ebron. He's the same price as Kyle Rudolph. He's the same price as Jordan Reed. Give me Evan Ingram all day over those guys. I think on Yahoo, Evan Ingram is by far my favorite tight end. And on DraftKings, where he's 5K, I still like him a ton on DraftKings as well. We talked about Hayden Hurst. If Julio winds up out, that's even a bigger boost for Hayden Hurst. But even if Julio plays, I still like Hayden Hurst a lot at 4,700. Got targeted 8 times last week. Looked like the tight end we would expect. I thought a big game was coming from Hayden Hurst, and that was the case. He did get wide open on that touchdown play. Nobody was covering him, so I guess he kind of got lucky there, but should be involved, for 6 to 8 targets once again. Going to be probably an every down tight end. It's a great receiving tight end. They're using him in the passing game. It's not like he's just out there to block. They're using Hayden Hurst out there, when they're, passing the ball, obviously. He's running a ton of routes, playing a ton of snaps. Really just what we look for, and 4,700, not too expensive, so I definitely like Hayden Hurst, and I'm going to like him even more if Julio winds up out. He's another cheap tight end that I will be on. And then under 4K, there's one tight end that I really like under 4K. Logan Thomas, I think, is my favorite value at tight end, 3,700. Just getting a ton of volume right now. I know he hasn't put up any big games yet, but 8 targets week 1, 9 targets week 2. Now he gets to face the Browns, who have really struggled against tight ends so far this season, and just in the past have really been a team that's struggled against tight ends. Thomas looks like he's going to be involved a ton this season. Going to play a ton of snaps, ran a ton of routes. That should be the case once again. So 3,700, the price tag's just too low on Logan Thomas for a guy that's playing as much as he is and a guy that's getting targeted as much as he is. I think he's probably my favorite value tight end at 3,700. Definitely like him on DraftKings at that price tag. Under 4K, he's my favorite guy to go to. You could look to Drew Sample. With CJ Uzomah now on IR, I do expect Drew Sample to be involved. He was targeted 9 times last week. did get targeted a ton after Uzama went out. 3,500, I guess he's not the worst value, but still, I would rather play Logan Thomas. Really not much else, though, that I like under 4K. I think tight end for me, I'm going to have a pretty tight player pool this week. I really like Evan Ingram. I really like Hayden Hurst. I really like Logan Thomas. I think Drew Sample's fine. I think like Dalton Schultz is fine as well. With Blake Jarwin now on IR, I think Schultz is going to be much more involved. That was the case last week. So at 4,500, you could go to him. Sure, you could obviously play like Jonnu, who's looked really good so far. You could play Noah Fant as well, who should be more involved. With Sutton confirmed now out, with maybe Jerry Jeudy banged up as well. I mean, Noah Fant's already just been so good this season. Got 17 DK points last week, 19 the week before that. Not getting as much volume as I would like, but did find the end zone both weeks. Is always a red zone threat, a guy they will look to in the red zone. You could definitely play Noah Fant, but like I said, I really like those three guys, Ingram, Hurst, and Logan Thomas. Like, those are the three guys I really keyed in on at tight end this week, so that's just my thoughts for tight end. Defense, I really don't touch on defense too much. I really just play whatever defense fits into my build. Just a couple teams that stand out, though, looking at good matchups. Obviously, the Colts are in a great spot against the Jets, but rarely do I pay over 4K for a defense. I think, the Patriots at home against the Raiders, especially if the Raiders come into this game banged up, I think the Patriots look like a great defense play at 3,200. They're probably like the optimal play at defense. If you're not playing Mitch Trubisky, I said I like Trubisky this week, but he's obviously a guy that will turn the ball over at times. The Falcons defense at home is only 2,800, so you could look there. The 49ers are going to be missing a lot of guys this week, so I don't think, the Giants defense at 2,700 doesn't look like the worst play. There's a chance Jimmy G doesn't play. They're obviously going to be without two running backs. There's a chance Kittle doesn't play. Like, the 49ers, there's a chance they might lose this game. I don't know if the Giants, how much they're underdogs here. Let me check that real quick. I want to see that. So the 49ers opened as 4-point favorites. Since then, they're now 3.5-point favorites. Like, honestly, I think the Giants could win this game, especially with how banged up the 49ers are right now. So 2,700, the Giants defense isn't too bad either. Those are just a couple defenses that, look good to me. Now, on Yahoo, I do want to touch on defense real quick here. The Buccaneers are clearly my favorite defense on Yahoo. They're only $10. They're going to be playing against the Broncos. We know the Broncos are incredibly banged up for this game. Going to be without their starting quarterback. Going to be without Drew Lock. Courtland Sutton is now on, injury reserve. He's out for the season. There's a chance Jerry Jeudy comes into this game banged up. They're without Phillip Lindsay. Really good spot for the Buccaneers here against the Broncos. The Buccaneers are one of the most expensive defenses on Draftkings. Well, on Yahoo, they're the cheapest defense on the board. So I'm for sure going to be playing a lot of the Buccaneers on Yahoo. I did want to mention them at $10, but yeah, guys, I think we broke it all down. I think we covered everything for this Week 3 slate. I know this video is very long, but, I try and break down everything for you guys. I try and give you guys as much, analysis as I can. Really talk about all the guys I like at each position. Really break it all down. So I hope this video helped you. If you did, if it did help you, be sure to hit that like button before we get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. We are getting close to 20,000 subscribers, so I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. And be sure to click the notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you would like to get more content from me, I do have stuff available on Patreon that you can check out. I will have my Final Core plays posted on Patreon Sunday morning. If you do want to get access to those, you can check out the Patreon link down below and see all that I have to offer over there. But best of luck tonight, or best of luck Sunday, guys. I do appreciate you watching the video. Hope you guys make some money this week. Good luck, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.